Kyle Busch's winless 2024 took another brutal hit when Ross Chastain wrecked him on the final lap, costing a potential top 5. Busch's wife, Samantha, calls Chastain a schmuck who ruined their day. Busch's eagerly pursued aspirations were unceremoniously and brutally shattered when Ross Chastain, a driver whose propensity for daring last-lap maneuvers has become the stuff of legend, executed an audacious plan. With a split-second window of opportunity presenting itself, Chastain seized the moment, ramming his car into the side of Busch's vehicle. The collision sent Busch's once formidable machine careening across the track in a sickening spiral of smoke and screeching tires, his hopes of a triumphant finish dissipating like a wisp in the wind. When the chaos finally subsided and the dust began to settle, Busch found himself relegated to a dismal 12th place finish.
Oh, Chastain and Busch got together.
Oh my God.
Imagine that.
For 5th.
At the epicenter of this inferno stood Samantha Busch, Kyle's wife and faithful ally, who took to the digital battlegrounds of social media to unleash the full, unbridled fury of her wrath upon the man she deemed responsible for her husband's latest setback, Ross Chastain. In a scathing post that pulled no punches and left no insult unuttered, Samantha branded Chastain with the most derisive of labels, a schmuck whose reckless actions had so ruthlessly ruined her husband's day. Indeed, Busch's winless drought in 2024 has been a stark and jarring contrast to his impressive start in 2023, when he joined the ranks of the Childress Racing team with a renewed sense of vigor and quickly established himself as a formidable contender for race victories. However, as the current season has inexorably unfolded, Busch has found himself mired in a quicksand of mediocrity, struggling to replicate the success that once seemed to flow so effortlessly from his skilled hands. With a mere 2 top 5 finishes and 5 top 10 results from the first 17 races, the specter of missing the playoffs looms larger with each passing race day, a nightmare scenario that threatens to derail the twilight years of his illustrious career. The Sonoma incident in particular was a bitter pill to swallow for Busch, as he had been poised to not only secure a strong result, but potentially an elusive victory that could have propelled him back into the thick of the championship hunt. With just under 2 miles remaining in the race, Busch was running in 5th place, his sights set on the checkered flag that had eluded him for far too long. Chastain, meanwhile, lurked in 6th place, his car a constant presence in Busch's rearview mirror, a lingering threat that would ultimately materialize spectacularly. As they navigated the treacherous twists and turns of the Sonoma circuit, Chastain seized his opportunity, attempting an ambitious and daring pass on the inside line that would prove to be the catalyst for the ensuing chaos. Busch's car, however, experienced a momentary lapse of control, the rear end sliding out in an oversteer that sent him drifting off the racing surface. As Busch fought with his legendary skill to regain command of his rebellious vehicle, turning back onto the track, Chastain's car made brutal and unforgiving contact with Busch's right front. The force of the crash sent Busch into an uncontrolled spin that effectively ended his hopes of a top 5 finish, and perhaps his championship aspirations for the year. In the aftermath of the crash that had seemingly dashed his dreams into oblivion, Busch did not mince words, his frustration and disappointment palpable, as he bluntly stated that Chastain's reckless actions had ruined his day and robbed him of a finish that he had worked tirelessly to secure. A couple of guys there at the end of the race had better tires than we did, but we were going to have a good day, Busch lamented, the bitterness of the moment etched across his weather-beaten features. Unfortunately, one of those guys got into us on the last lap and ruined our day. It's frustrating to not get the finish that we deserved. The incident at Sonoma was merely the latest in a seemingly interminable series of setbacks and disappointments that have plagued Busch's 2024 campaign, a constant barrage of adversity that has threatened to break even the most resolute of spirits. Just 1 week prior, he had found himself embroiled in a high-speed wreck with Kyle Larson at the Worldwide Technology Raceway, a collision that further compounded his struggles and dealt a devastating blow to his rapidly diminishing championship aspirations. Larson, for his part, acknowledged that he bore some responsibility for the initial contact that ultimately precipitated the crash, though his words offered little solace to the beleaguered Busch, whose patience had grown razor-thin in the face of such unrelenting misfortune. "No, I hadn't talked to him, but, again, on my end, I have no hard feelings," Larson said before the Sonoma race. "I always do a really good job at looking back at accidents that I get in, and whether it be that I caused it or I didn't cause it. I still try to pinpoint what kind of fault I had in it." The intensity of Busch's frustrations, the sheer weight of his disappointment, was laid bare in a video that captured the final lap incident with Chastain in excruciating and unflinching detail. As Busch's car spun across the track in a kaleidoscope of smoke, debris, and twisted metal, he lost several hard-fought positions before finally regaining some semblance of control over his battered machine. However, in a cruel twist of fate that seemed to encapsulate the overarching narrative of his season, a season defined by heartbreak and dashed hopes, Busch's car sputtered and ran out of fuel just before he could cross the finish line, consigning him to a 12th place finish instead of the potential 11th place result that had been tantalizingly within his grasp mere moments earlier. Some analysts believe that the struggles of the past year and a half signal the beginning of the end for the driver once considered an indomitable force of nature, a perennial championship contender whose mere presence on the track struck fear into the hearts of his rivals. Wyatt Watson, a respected voice within the NASCAR firmament, argues that Busch's lack of consistency and his seeming inability to secure quality results may soon make it increasingly challenging, if not outright impossible, for him to secure a competitive ride with a top-tier team should he ultimately fail to qualify for the playoffs this season. If Busch can't improve the consistency with RCR, his days with the team, or potentially his career, could be in peril. The opportunities for a driver in his 40s to land a ride with a top-tier perennial contender are few and far between. It could very well be the beginning of the end of the KFB era in NASCAR. However, amidst the gathering gloom and sense of impending doom, some refuse to abandon all hope, clinging to the belief that Busch's struggles are but a temporary setback, a mere stumbling block on the road to greater glory. Chase Folsom, a staunch defender of Busch's prowess, attributes the former champion's woes more to the performance deficiencies of the Childress Racing equipment than to any perceived decline in the driver's abilities behind the wheel. Folsom points an accusing finger at Busch's teammate, Austin Dillon, who finds himself mired in an abysmal 30th place in points, having already cycled through 2 crew chiefs this season in a desperate bid to salvage his faltering campaign from the unforgiving jaws of failure. In contrast, Busch has 5 top 10s and 2 top 5s to his name so far in 2024, and an average finish of 17.2. For Busch to be that far ahead of his teammate in the standings and still finding some success, despite a missed opportunity this past weekend at Worldwide Technology Raceway, speaks more to me that Busch is overcoming RCR's documented struggles, rather than being washed and beyond his prime, Folsom argues. Folsom's defense of Busch's abilities is further bolstered by the driver's impressive start to the 2023 season, a campaign that saw him secure 3 hard-fought victories and sit a comfortable 3rd in the standings after 19 races, firmly entrenched in the thick of the championship battle. It was only after the summer race at Atlanta Motor Speedway that Busch's performance began to spiral, a descent into mediocrity that suggests the current slump may be more circumstantial than indicative of a permanent and irreversible decline in his prodigious talents behind the wheel. Adding fuel to the already raging inferno of debate, Busch found himself embroiled in yet another high-profile incident, this time during a crucial testing session at the hallowed Indianapolis Motor Speedway on Tuesday, June 4th. While some view this latest mishap as a further ominous sign of trouble on the horizon, an indicator of the impending twilight of Busch's career, Folsom dismisses its significance with a wave of his hand, pointing out that the very purpose of such tests is to push the limits of the car and tires to their absolute extremes. Incidents and mishaps, he argues, are an inevitable byproduct of such daring experimentation, not necessarily indicative of any deeper issues plaguing the driver or the team. As the season progresses with each heart-pounding lap, every turn of the wheel carrying the weight of a legacy on the line, all eyes will remain fixated on Kyle Busch and the Richard Childress Racing team. Can the veteran driver, a true titan of the sport whose indomitable spirit and determination have become the stuff of legend, find his way back to victory lane and silence the growing chorus of doubters by securing a spot in the playoffs? Or will the struggles, the setbacks, and the cruel twists of fate continue to mount, potentially marking the end of an era for one of the most impactful and influential drivers to ever grace NASCAR's grandest stages? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to like and subscribe to NASCAR Today for videos like this.